Okay, so if you guys remember, there's four different stages, process. I forgot what he called it. Was it stages? Okay, and then stage number one was what?
Singleness.
Singleness. So that's what we went over last week, and then how it's a gift. And then the second today, what we're gonna go over is dating, and then next week engagement, and then last one is marriage. Okay. Dating's tough. You guys think so?
Mm-hmm.
Dating is tough because it is risky. You can get hurt. There's a reason that Adele and Taylor Swift are both millionaires. Why? Because these ladies sing about heartaches. Never mind the fun. Okay. And the world sings along. Though we can't all monetize our pain the way they have, we can sure bell tower our laments among with them. So if dating can feel like playing hopscotch in a minefield, why risk the inevitable pain? Because deep in us, we long to connect. We want to love and we want to be loved. So we are willing to risk the drama of dating for the payoff of an intimate relationship. You guys agree?
Agreed.
Yeah, so we have to kind of think about what's the purpose of dating. Okay, let's go. Okay. So again, the Bible doesn't really teach us about dating because dating is actually pretty new. Yeah. Okay, it's a pretty new phenomenon because before that, like, yeah, you would either get arranged marriage, or like you didn't have like time to go on dates because you're busy like making it working. you know, the fact. No, even like 100, 200 years, like 100 years ago, even like 100 years ago, like people wouldn't go out together and like go on dates. What they would do is they would invite you to the house. It's weird, huh? They would, they used to have like, if you look at like movies long time ago, they have like porches. Do you remember the movie that we were you there when we watched the Christmas video?
Yeah, it's a wonderful life.
It's a Wonderful Life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but do you guys remember? Like he actually goes to our house, and they don't go out and go on a date, but he goes to our house, and like they sit in the house together, even though the parents are there, and they would talk to each other and get to know the family, and that's how they would kind of they wouldn't call it dating, they would call it courtship. Yeah, yeah, this idea of yeah,
Means your parents have to be in the room next door.
yeah. Or they would sometimes they would just be there, and you would get to know everybody, and you would see them in the context of like where they're at. But then with like more like events, things like that, people got have more time, more money. It became more about entertainment. I don't know exactly when. Yeah, yeah. So it was more about going out rather than like staying inside the house or front of the house, like the porch area and stuff like that. And then before that, it was just like yeah, kind of like a lot of arranged marriage and like things like that. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. I'll read. Evaluation leads naturally to two critical questions. The first, what quality shall I look for? This is the who question. The second, what process should I go through to find that right person? This is the how question. Today we'll tackle the first question and we'll continue with the next question next week. So today is more more of the who. What kind of person should we be looking for? Okay. Oh, and by the way, this is very important because, like I said, either I think like the what society tells us is either don't think about it, like don't even think about anything, like kind of like what Genesis says. I was kind of like this too. It's like I like her, so we should date, right? More than like what is the purpose of dating. I didn't think about that, So it's easy to be like, oh, she's cute, or oh, he's good looking, or oh, we have chemistry, so we should get together, of course, and then go have fun together, kind of a thing. It's kind of more than a process. It's a status to get into, so that you could become more physical, or you could do things together. Like it gives you like license to do stuff together, like go on movies together, something like that. It's like, oh, why are you guys doing that? Oh, you guys, because we're a thing. So it almost gives you a license to do that. So it's like license to have fun. Or it's just you don't even think about it. You're not even thinking about what's the purpose of dating. Okay? But again, the Bible tells us that this period should be really for evaluation. Kind of like exactly that you gave the perfect answer, which is you should be thinking about marriage, and then this whole process of dating is to lead up to marriage. Are we the right fit? Evaluation. Go ahead.
Picture your life as a race you are running. As a single person, you are charging towards the Lord, devoted to Him, using your gift, abilities, time, and influence to be a blessing to all people who are made in His image. As you are chasing after Him, there will be all manner of people running as well, but in all manner of directions. Some will cross your path right in front of you. They may even be cute, but they are running in a totally different direction, pursuing things other than God. Maybe they're pursuing money, happiness, fame, or acceptance. This kind of evaluation means you are going to let a lot of cute, witty, charming people run right by you because they're not pursuing God.
Right. So that's a good imagery, right? It's like everybody is running somewhere then. Everybody has a different goal, right? And then we talked about in singleness, our goal, we have to make sure that's the perfect time, a time that God has given to us as a gift to make sure, hey, this is my foundation. So that even when something comes along, I don't go, woo, 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 woo. Okay? So again, think of it kind of like that. Let's keep going.
But when you are chasing the Lord, after a while you will look up and see people chasing Him along with you. As you are running, you're going to start talking to a few of them. You're going to check them out, and it is okay to start running alongside one of them and see if you two have some chemistry. Do I like talking to you? Are you fun? Are you attractive? As this happens, you eventually find someone to run with for the rest of your life.
Oh. And that's what marriage is then. Yeah, that's really beautiful, right? Yeah. And again, that's why the Bible tells us to, if you're a Christian, to not, well, it doesn't say like directly, but there's a lot of principles where it basically says like you shouldn't be dating non-Christians, right? Because again, it's like either you have to stop or this person has to stop and you're dragging them. Even though they might be going this way, you're like trying to run with them and trying to hold them and, hey, let's go to God together. Or you're getting dragged by them, kind of a thing. Right? So you guys have to think about that, right? Again, this is why singleness is so important. If you don't have your goal in mind, then what's going to happen? Whatever girl, whatever guy you see, you're going along with them. Let's keep going.
What we are looking for is character and chemistry. You want someone with character, not someone who simply admits the existence of a deity, but someone who passionately pursues God and things of God. You want to be with someone who possesses a deep God-shaped character. And then you want to look for someone with whom you have chemistry. You must have both. Some only want one without the other. You want solid godly character and fun, easy chemistry.
Okay. So 2 aspects it's talking about. So it's making sure that, again, they're pursuing after God, but someone that you have chemistry with too. And that's okay, right? Let's keep going. By the way, what do you guys think so far? Any disagreements? This makes sense so far? Okay. Purpose of dating. What you should not be looking for is someone to complete you. Dating is not about chasing a person in your eyes who can find a sense of meaning and fulfillment. That is far too much weight to put on another human being. You are not half a person waiting for another half a person to complete you. Because Jesus and Apostle Paul were not incomplete as single people. And neither are you. Right? Because if you say, oh yeah, like single people, they're not complete, or they're not mature, or they're not adults. And church sometimes have this kind of mentality. Like, oh, if you're married, then you're like an adult type of thing.
Like pastors need to get married
Yes, things like that.
before
Right.
they-
If you think about it, the two biggest like Christian influence, Jesus and Paul, they're both single. Right.
Funny thing about this, my cousin got married. He got promoted right away.
Amen.
He's a pastor.
Amen. Okay, let's keep going.
Oh, a relationship is not meant to carry that weight. But you can find someone who has a great character and with whom you have great chemistry. Then you can run into the future God has for you together. That is the vision we're aiming for in marriage. A couple hand in hand, pursuing God together, same direction, good chemistry. This is what marriage is meant to be. Dating is the process of evaluation we use to find that person to marry.
Okay, so again, my goal is to run towards God. And then I want to, if there's somebody that we have good chemistry, we can walk in, we have a good running pace together, right? Then we will run together for the rest of our life together. That's the goal. Right? And then some people, they want to take it a little slower. And this is like chemistry and things like that, right? Like me and Luis, we can't run together. Because Luis is like,
Way too fast.
right. And that's fine, because we have like different stages, but we're going to the same goal though, right? And that's okay. So again, it's dating process is, hey, can we run this race together? Next. Is it Billet? Or no, is it Genesis? Yeah.
This is no small shift in mindset. One of the great dangers in modern dating is tendency to adopt a consumer mentality rather than a companion mentality. Modern dating is looking for a product to consume, not a person to love. Rather than trying to list all of your preference of looks or their career, the proper question should be, could I build a life with this person? Could we journey to God together? In short, we are not looking primarily for a collection of characteristics, but rather for character and chemistry. Let's start with exploring critical factors of character and what it should look like.
Yeah. So one is product. It's kind of like I'm like half of a person, kind of like what we talked about before, right? Right here, you are not half of a person, and finding someone to complete you. But sometimes we view the other person like that, right? It's kind of like a product. It's like, what are you gonna do to fulfill my needs for me? How are you going to satisfy my needs? The with him thing, yeah. What's in it for me? Yeah. So that kind of concept, right? So rather, your goal is not this person complete you. No, Jesus is going to complete you, but I'm going that way. And is there someone else I could walk with? Okay. By the way, this is how Paul actually and the Bible actually supports singleness as well. Not that marriage is not important, but again, marriage not the ultimate thing, right? So if there's somebody else you can marry and run together, great. But if not, you could still have a group of like church people, like community, where you could do this together, even if you're single. So in that sense, it could be really beautiful. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Paul warned Christians in 2 Corinthians 6:14 to not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. A yoke was an instrument used to bind animals together while they were plowing the field. Why wouldn't you connect an ox and a donkey? Because they're entirely different animals with different wiring and different paces. They will not work well if they are bound together. Paul took this idea and applied it to human relationships. Those who have sworn allegiance to Jesus should not bind their lives with those who have not. Now, this certainly does not mean that people of different faiths should not interact. Christians need to love everyone, even their enemies.
Right. Okay. So yoke was this system where you had two cows and you basically joined them together so that they can walk in pace together and work together. Right? And Paul's basically, and by the way, the context, he's not really talking about dating specifically, but he's just talking about in general. Right? Okay, so He's obviously not saying like don't be friends with like unbelievers. But again, like this very close relationship, especially like dating or marriage, then obviously he's saying no, that's not good for you. Again, can you imagine two runners? One is going this way, one is going that way, and you put like a handcuff together on them. Like, how is it not gonna? It's not gonna work. Okay, let's keep going. If you are a believer, that means you live by faith. If I follow Jesus and embrace his perspective on all reality, I engage everything in my life from relationships, finance, my body, sexuality in a ways that pleases God. While you are doing this, the non-believer is pursuing their own interests, where one of these two results will happen. Okay? So again, I'm trying to follow Jesus, the other person is following after whatever they're following. Okay, so let's see the two things that's going to happen.
Number one of you will give in and eventually follow the other. Often this means the believer abandons the pursuit of God. You will both stubbornly pursue your agendas, and neither of you will get where you want to go, and you will constantly frustrate each other. One will eventually give in and die a little inside, or break apart in divorce. Either way, you will both miss out on the joy of being linked together with someone who is running the same direction as you.
Right. So do you see that? One is like if somebody is like really strong, and if someone is like a little bit like personality wise like weaker, then they'll just follow after them, right? Because there's like, no, we're going that way. We're going okay, whatever, and then they just follow along. Or they're both kind of strong, then they just keep fighting, and then eventually one of them, or they either decide to get divorced, or they get tired of it, and they're just like, oh, whatever, fine, I'll just get dragged by you, and that's terrible too. Yeah. Okay. The disclaimer, however, that doesn't mean just because like there's two Christians, ta-da, like everything's gonna be fine and you're gonna be walking on flowers and no divorce or no fights. No, we're not saying that either, right? We're just saying again, but you guys are walking in the same path, or you guys are both trying to get to the same goal. Okay. Do you guys have any examples, maybe your friends or maybe even yourself, of maybe this happening because you yoked yourself, or you've seen somebody else yoking themselves with an unbeliever, and because of that?
From my personal experience, my ex-wife, we met in church. So
Okay.
I figured, we're both headed towards the same direction, but as time went along, like she just kind of just didn't show any more interest in being in the church. So with that, like it just came down to just not going anymore.
Do you think for you it was the first one or the second one for you?
And it was probably the first one.
First one?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, okay.
I was like, well, if it's gonna, whatever to make you happy, because I subscribe to the whole happy wife, happy life theory,
Sure.
which is its own separate topic.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Anyways, it's its own separate topic. But
Yeah.
yes, so I caved into that, and so I was like, I'll do whatever makes you happy. And so at that rate, that's why I dipped out of church.
Sure.
Because I was like, well. So
For sure.
that's my experience.
Thanks for sharing.
For me, it's also number one. I feel like because of my personality, I give in. And at that point, I was also not that I didn't have a direction usually to run into. I didn't have my focus on God, so I was just running blindly.
Yeah.
And I just saw a cute guy, and I was like, whoa.
It's like, woo! Kind of like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, when? All of this, I'm like, when?
How about you, Genesis?
I think there's so many examples. We
Yeah.
have a friend that she was married, brought him into the church, he baptized, got married, they came to Texas. Coming to Texas from New York, they stopped going to church and everything, money and whatnot. Eventually she snapped back and she was like, no, we have to go, we have to do this, we gotta stop doing that. He didn't want to do it anymore, so they got
Oh, so sick.
Yeah. But now she's happily married. with
She's
2
remarried.
Kids. Yeah,
Okay,
remarried.
remarried.
With 2 kids.
Italian dude.
With an Italian. Then now I'm going to go to his house or his childhood
Mm.
home to live for 3 weeks. So it all works out. for
Nice.
everybody.
And then he married a Christian guy?
He is
He was not.
he's not our religion. I don't think he's baptized yet, but he's going to like the church over there
I
in
see.
San Antonio.
I see.
He's a deacon now, I think.
Wow.
He was never like, I guess he always just, it makes sense to me too,
Uh.
so it's fine. So many.
Mm.
That one I guess is the biggest one that we have because it involved divorce. But
Mm.
I have another friend that started dating my other friend. I told her, I was like, hey, if you don't pull him, he's gonna pull you.
Yeah.
He pulled her out.
Yeah.
So she's not at church anymore.
Yeah.
I had another friend that they're both from church, but she was more in and out. Rarely came sometimes. She pulled him out.
Yeah.
He ended up going to prison. He's finally back though. He's out
Mm.
now.
Mm.
There's so many
Yeah.
examples.
Or I feel like someone like number one, like they might get baptized and they might come to church and everything,
Yeah.
but they're not like
They're not doing it for the
yeah,
right
they're not mentally really
Yeah.
there. They're just doing it just to like please, their
Yeah.
family
to get
member.
married.
Yeah, just to be there kind of a thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the happy wife, happy life theory.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's because for us, it's like we can't get married unless you're the same religion kind of thing, and if they
Mm.
get baptized, then same religion technically.
Sure. Yeah, but more and more I feel like I see like more people dating out.
Yeah.
Yeah, more and more I see it, sadly. But
Like out from church.
out of church, yeah. I mean, some it does, very rarely it does work out. It does work out, but I think it's very, very rare case. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. But again, very important. We're not saying you marry a Christian guy or a Christian girl and
And they don't work.
la la la, right? We're not saying that, okay? Nor are we saying Christian guy or Christian girl is better than a non-Christian guy or non-Christian girl, right? We're just saying they're going in a different direction. Does that make sense? Very important. Let's take it a step further. You not only want a believer in God, but a pursuer of God, right? This is what I think what Louise was saying. It was not enough just to have somebody else who goes to a church with you, right, in the beginning, but like really like they're pursuing God, right? There's a difference. Anyone can say they love God. That's not hard. A friend of mine was sexually assaulted on a first date with a guy who had a Bible on his coffee table. So be careful. You do not want somebody who just slaps Christianity on their chest.
As a country friend of mine says, you can put a bow tie on a turd, but it's still a turd.
Good old Texan.
It does not matter to me one bit if someone regularly sits in church. You need to watch their life over a period of time. You want to be able to see why behind the decisions they make. The motivation you want to see is that they desire to please the Lord. You want to date someone who is submitted to the Lord's will. They are not perfect, but they are actively seeking Him and trusting that He will make them more like Him.
Yeah. And that's why, again, if you just try to get married or just try dating them because you're physically attracted to them or there's chemistry, that runs out pretty quick, right? And afterwards, usually it doesn't work out. Why? Because you realize, oh, we're very different. We're pursuing very different things. But in the beginning, yeah, we could pause a little bit and but eventually we're going somewhere, and that's why for me too, a lot of my relationships, in the beginning, it's like, ooh, it's a lot of fun and yeah. But then it's like, oh, but I'm a Christian. It's like, oh, I'm going to become a pastor. Then it's like, it's not compatible. Let's keep going.
Marrying a wise person will allow you to navigate life well. The book of Proverbs states that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom is an understanding of how the world works and an ability to work within it well. When someone believes God made this place, they also believe that the way He tells us to work within the world will work best. Then life can be set up to succeed. Therefore, the smartest thing you can do is to link up with someone who is tethered to the but perfectible, because he or she is submitted to the Lord and longs to do his will.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, attraction, cute, chemistry, that's all good. Right? But the main thing has to be, again, both of these things. And sometimes it's hard to find both of these things, right? You might have the one or you might have the other, right? But again, it's saying you should preferably have both of these things. Okay? But the main thing, I think, should be, are they walking in that same path with you? I think that's the most important thing. Any question, clarification? You guys agree, disagree? Any disagreements? Okay. I think especially, like, I think marriage, yeah, but especially like when you have kids, it's like I really realize, man, it's really important you marry the right person. Because if you marry the wrong person, I mean, it sucks either way, right? But it's like when kids get involved, then it's like really screwed then. You know? Because not, it's like, yeah, it's just like you two, but then it's like a kid gets involved. Then it's like because of, like, again, imagine like a kid there and you're like trying to pull them into different directions. That hurts even more. So you got to be really careful. All right. Let's finish off with this. At the center of every great love story are two people who are right for each other, destined to be together. We're usually able to spot them 3 or 4 scenes into a movie or a half dozen chapters into a novel. You just know, usually before they do, 300 pages or 20 minutes later, they figure out what we've known all along, leaving us entertained and in some case inspired by their story. Okay? And that's why movies or, books and these things, shows are fun, right? Belen?
I realize that you realize movies. No, wait, what? I realize that you realize movies, reality TV, and novels don't reflect real life. I assume you don't take your relationship cues from scriptwriters or authors. But it's possible you've embraced the underlying premise that holds these storylines together. That assumption being there's the right person for you, and once you find your right person, everything will be all right. I call this the right person myth.
Okay, do you guys know the right person myth? Okay. So the right person myth is there's a right person, and then once you might find the right person, your life will be fine.
It's like your soulmate, right?
Yeah, kind of similar to that. Similar to that. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what this right person myth is.
The myth isn't there's a right person for you out there somewhere. That there may very well be. The myth is that once you find the right person, everything will be alright. My hunch is you're smart enough to know why that's a myth. The current divorce rate pretty much says it all. Every man and woman who have navigated the pain and complexity of divorce stood in front of a pastor and made vows to the right person. But eventually, they discover something wrong with Mr. or Miss Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So the right person myth is not that there isn't a right person out there for you. Because right now we just talked about evaluation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the right person is not like the perfect person who complete you, but somebody, again, that you're running to Jesus together and that you guys can complement each other. Right? That's the right person. But then the lie is once you find that right person, then everything's going to be smooth sailing. That's the lie. Does that make sense? Okay? Because the example he's giving is every single person who got married. Okay, not about every single person, but like probably 95% of the people who got married, they're not thinking, shoot, she's not the right person or he's not the right person. Right? They're getting married because they're thinking, he's the right person or she's the right person. But what happens? More than 50% are getting divorced. So again, we know that this is a myth. Just because you meet the right person, that doesn't mean that everything is smooth sailing. Let's keep going.
Looking for the right person is a great idea as long as you don't assume that finding the right person ensures everything will be all right. Looking for the right person is essential. It's just not enough. There's more to a satisfying relationship than finding the right person.
Okay. So again, the first part was all about trying to find that right person, yes? But again, that doesn't ensure that everything's going to be all right. Okay? Every Sunday, all over America, Starry-eyed couple join hands, say vows, exchange rings, and makes promises they have every intention of keeping, but with little to no preparation for doing so. They mean well. I doubt that there are many instances of brides and grooms being intentionally dishonest. But in the majority of cases, these well-intentioned people who make promises, they make promises that they just aren't equipped to keep. Okay? So all these people, they're like, the vows are, right, through difficult times, through death, whatever, all of the sickness or death, I'll always be with you. So anybody can make a promise, but are they prepared to make that promise? That's a totally different thing. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Go ahead.
In the realm of relationships, unlike any other arena of life, we operate from the premise that a promise replaces the need for preparation. That a couple can promise, vow, or commit themselves into a successful future. But our experience in other areas proves that to be patently false. In the world of academics, sports, business, medicine, you name the field, preparation is the key to success. Good students know they must prepare for exams, not just stare in the mirror and promise to do well.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, right? I promise to do well on this exam. I promise you. Right? Teacher Janet says, all right, the next test, I promise I'll study. Or I promise I'll do well. Right? But they don't study. It doesn't make it. Words mean, saying I commit to something means absolutely nothing. Right? But again, we think when it comes to relationship, as long as I get together with them, or as long as I marry them, I make this promise, I made a vow before people, before God, then I'll be okay. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense, right? It's like this. It's like saying, me and Louis saying, oh, hey, we're going to run the full marathon. We're going to sign up. We signed up. Right? That's the promise, right? We committed. But does that matter? Does that mean that we're going to succeed? Absolutely not. What do we got to do? Like for our triathlon, we had to train. Does that make sense? So same thing. Right? Just because we make a promise doesn't mean anything. And we understand this, but when it comes to relationship or marriage, it totally goes out the window if you think about it. Yeah. Huh? Because for some reason, we think, oh, because I love them, so of course things are going to be okay. And it comes to the whole myth thing. I love them. Of course it's going to work out.
But wouldn't dating be the preparation?
Dating is a process of evaluation, right? But it doesn't mean that you're necessarily ready, right? Singleness is a good time for preparation. Yeah. Okay. So you got to make sure. I mean, during dating too, you should but it's hard to prepare well when you're dating because you're so focused on the other person. So singleness is the best time to prepare. Yeah. Let's keep going. Genesis? Yeah.
In every arena of life, preparation is the key to success. This is true for relationships as well, but for reasons having more to do with marketing than common sense. Our culture completely ignores this indisputable reality. Very few people prepare. Most people are content to commit. When it comes to relationships, commitment is way overrated. Promises and commitments are no substitute for preparation.
Right. So obviously he's not saying don't commit, right? He's just saying before you commit, make sure that you are prepared. It's okay, right? You want to run a marathon, you want to pay before and commit? Fine. Prepare then. Prepare. So you want to get married? Great. Okay, you want to stay with one person for the rest of your life? Great. But you got to prepare. Right? And that's all we're saying. And this is, if you think about it, it's really interesting. So, I right now, even right now, I'm doing a premarital counseling for Daniel and Monica, and people normally ask me oh, how long is good? And I say, the more the better. Right? The more the better. And I always give this example. It's like, how long do you need to prepare for your wedding? They usually go, oh, like 6 months or a year, right? So I go, okay, so you're telling me you need to prepare 6 months to a year for one day of your life. And you're saying 1 month of premarital counseling is too much for you? So that it's for the rest of your life together? Does that make sense? But we spend so much money and so much time just for one day. And I know a lot of couples that don't spend any time in premarital counseling, talking about like their relational dynamics and issues. That, does that make sense? All right. So yeah, you should invest again in your future marriage. So I say, yeah, if there's somebody who can give you premarital counseling for a year, 2 years, 3 years, why not? The longer, the better. Right. But normally, I think the program that I take them on, it's like usually 3 or 4 months. Yeah. But some people, they need more. I had to tell some couple, like, two things happened. One couple, like, they were engaged and then they separated during that process. So, I mean, it's really sad, but I'm glad they separated. Yeah, because they realized, wow, there's a lot of things that are incompatible. And there's other couples where I had to say, like, yeah, you guys need more counseling. But, like, their wedding date was, like, 2 weeks later. So they're like, no, we're going to get married. It's okay. But I'm like, there are a lot of issues. And I'm not saying you can't sort out the issues, during your marriage. But again, you want to give enough time to, But again, even me, like, we did premarital counseling like 2 sessions. No, that's like not enough. Yeah. All right. So again, it's not 100%, but again, if you prepare more, especially your singleness time, then the better, right? When that special person does come along, then you guys are prepared to go together. So a question you want to ask yourself is, am I the right person that the right person is looking for? It's easy to look for the right person before even becoming the right person yourself. Does that make sense? So like there's a story of a guy. Maybe I told you guys this before, but there's a story of a guy. He was like, hey, like, I'm looking for, like, I want a girlfriend. And then he went out and then he found the girl and then he came back to his friend. Oh, you were dating that girl. What happened? It's like, oh, she's really pretty, but she's like, she's kind of like a blonde, like nothing is really there. So I realized I need to find somebody like, that's not only pretty, but like who like has common sense kind of a thing. And then like a couple months later, it's like, oh, you were dating that other girl. Yeah. It's like, oh, but I realize, like, she likes to be at home. Like I like being like outgoing and like, like outdoorsy and things like that, active. But she's like very inactive, right? So it's just like this thing happened over and over and over, right? And then he came back. Eventually, he's like, dude, I found the perfect girl, right? She's like pretty. She makes a lot of money. She's like intellectually smart. She's outdoorsy, all of these things, right? And then it's like, oh yeah, so did it work out? And it's like, no, it didn't work out. It's like, why? And then it's because she was looking for the perfect guy.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like this right here. So we can talk all day long about, yeah, I want a guy who's going after God. I want a guy who has great character or a girl who has great character. But is that guy going to look at you and be like, oh yeah, you're the type of guy or a girl that I want to be dating? So we have to think about that as well. So again, that goes back to am I even prepared? Right? Am I the type of person? So whatever your ideal type of that right person is, do you think that person will look at you and be like, oh yeah, that person is the right person for me? So we have to think about that as well. But again, we forget that. We just go, oh yeah, I'm looking for that perfect guy or perfect girl who's walking with God, who's faithful to God. But it's like, if I'm not faithful to God, what makes you think they're gonna like me back, or we're running in the same pace together? Or if I have some character issues that I gotta solve, right? What makes you think things like that? Does that make sense? All right. So very, very important. All right, we'll finish with this. So dating is an evaluation period. Okay. Belen?
Dating is not a status to dwell in, but a process to move through. It is a series of actions meant to lead us to a particular end, discerning whether or not we are meant to marry a particular person. Dating exists for evaluation.
Evaluation. Okay. Any question, clarification?